All right. So actually, that thumbs up reminded me to get this thing rolling. Whatever kind of emoji you're feeling, just rapidly bam that in the chat. Wonder if I can do one. Yeah. Okay, let's get started. So, you guys are here because this is nice. I love that. This is the weapon design for video games presentation that I put together. So, if I click, will that work? Yeah. So, a little bit about my personal work. So, I currently work at Ubisoft, and I've worked on Rainbow Six Mobile, and currently I'm working on Rainbow Six Siege. And I've been doing weapon design, so the concepts for the weapons that go into the game. Predominantly, I've been doing weapons, a little bit of characters, but mainly weapons. Okay, so a little bit about myself before we get into it. Just to stay grounded here, because we all start from somewhere, and actually putting together this presentation was a very humbling experience, because I went back into my past and all the jobs that I've had. And I don't know if you guys can guess, you may have seen the picture, but my first job was not a concept artist. It was nothing special. Um, if you guys know what it is, type it in the chat. I will reveal it soon. Let's see if I can see chat. But basically, all right, I started as a dishwasher. Yep. And that image with all the dishes piled up and the dirty marinara sauce, that was the world that I was in. This was my very first job, and it was hell on earth. so so that was where I started. And then the future jobs that I had, um, I got through those jobs because in my mind I was like, sometimes it would suck, but it was never as bad as dishwashing, right? So sometimes starting off as the worst job is the best way to do it. And the reason why I'm telling you guys this is because um, that's what got me, you know, further closer to my goal. I realized what concept art was, that it was actually a job. You could draw something really cool, and then it would go into a video game, and you get paid for it. I've when I was aware of that, I was like, okay, I want to do this. So that got me through my jobs too. It was never like, I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but you're working at a job and it just feels like there's nowhere else you're going. And if it's a job you don't like, it really sucks. So having this goal in the back of my head as I was stocking the shelves, or my hands being frozen as I was putting in frozen goods into the grocery store frozen aisle, there's other people uh, that were just miserable and hating their life, but I had this idea in my head. I was like, this is not where I end. I'm going to be a concept artist. This is just for funds, for rent and food. This is just to keep me going. Um, so yeah, that got me through it. And then I actually had some part-time jobs throughout school. So MTM, I went to school, and that training that I got, I mean, I wouldn't have had the skills and the knowledge to do what I do today without learning that in school. So that was a pretty important part to get me to where I am today. And yeah, it gave me the mindset to just to grow my skill and suck in knowledge. And then self-motivation after I graduated at the beginning of COVID. So after school, it was kind of like you're just thrown into the abyss. There was a plan before COVID happened, but then, as you all know, COVID messed up the world. So when I graduated, it was all the studios were not hiring because they were closing. You know, they're trying to figure out a new way of having that work from home method. So that was weird. But I had that self motivation to keep, you know, practicing and applying for jobs. And one day I got I reached out to Ubisoft and did the art test and managed to land a job as a weapons concept artist. So basically, that whole thing is just to show you that it doesn't happen overnight. That's a very cliche thing to say, but it truly, when you set a goal, it's going to take time, but it's kind of fun knowing that just you keep chipping away at it, and one day you're going to get there. That you just keep chipping away at it. It's inevitable. So, oh, this is just some going down nostalgic road. This is what the school looked like when I went there. We would draw on parchment paper, and we'd use Conte and pencils, and it was there was no computers. We didn't use computers until I think year 2. All of year 1 was just learning the basics. Yeah, it was a crazy experience. It was pretty cool. We had some great teachers teaching like anatomy. This is actually the anatomy room. I had Steve Millard. I don't know if you guys have gone to the school yet or if you're planning on going, but big shout out to Steve Millard. He's the anatomy teacher, and his class was awesome. Like just being amongst students that are passionate about drawing and then having a teacher that's also passionate about their thing and they love teaching. It was a really cool time. It was hard. Like when I was there, it was especially this course, like you really have to focus and learn, and your brain is throbbing at the end of it. But the amount of progression you make in a year is crazy. Like I just remember looking back, like each year I was like making, you wouldn't think that you'd excel so much, but I mean, this school really is just purely focused on art or whatever, if it's concept art or if it's sequential art or animation. There's when I went, I don't know if it's changed now, but when I went, there was no English, you know, there was no math. It's not your typical college. It was just all, what can we do to make these people better in drawing and painting? So, uh, and then also you're amongst people, so that's kind of cool. Like nowadays, there's lots of classes online, which don't get me wrong, they're awesome, and I have a couple that I need to work on because I want to start learning some stuff again. But I just remember being with people. When you have a class, you're with your friends and colleagues. You encourage each other. You know, you encourage each other to work harder, and it's yeah, it's I don't regret going to the school. I think it was a good way of doing it. This is a painting class, and we'd have a live model, and you paint with oil paints, and you just yeah, you just paint the model bit by bit. And this was a hallway where you could see all the work of the people before you, which was super daunting. And you're like, oh my god, like this stuff is really cool. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. But then you surprise yourself, and you see after a year, like, damn, I improved a lot, maybe. So yeah, that's a little trip down memory lane. And let's see what the next slide is. So work concepts. Uh, I do know what I'm doing, but I do forget some of the slides. All right. So this is a concept I did for work. It's a very angular sci-fi kind of gun. The prompt was like a futuristic version of a FAMAS gun. And so there's like a little chip, a computer chip, almost like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the game, but there's this operator called Twitch. And basically, this gun is her customized version of enhancing it, with these electronic bits. And it's also a little more in the future. So it's got, angular covers on top just for that futuristic look. The next slide shows you on the left side is the base gun. So basically, I'd be given, okay, here, Ben, this is the weapon that we want you to modify, make it different, but keep to the same general shapes and proportions, so that in game, first off, players can recognize, oh, that's the FAMAS, like that looks like the gun. And also, when you have characters and they grab certain parts of the weapon when you're playing, you want those areas to be in the same location so that it doesn't mess up the rigging or the animation. So that's really important to have those landmarks in the same place. So there are limitations when it comes to designing, but sometimes that's kind of good because it kind of narrows things down for you, and you're not just like trying to figure out, oh, what do I design? And it's just, you can just think forever. Sometimes these limitations are actually really nice and makes it a little simpler for your job. This is some progress work. This is the stuff I don't show people, but because I'm, showing what I do, I might as well be transparent. So basically, this is just some rough work. I was just trying to get a cool side view, and I would just draw, and then I'd copy paste in Photoshop and work on another one, work on it, just do little variations. And then at the end, this was before I'd show the art director, I would cross off the ones, I would X off the ones I was like, nah, it's not that cool. And I'd circle the ones that I liked. And then those select few, I would show to the art director. I wouldn't show him everything because that's just a lot for him to look at, and it can get confusing. So, yeah. And then this is the side view that we ended up going with, because you do some thumbnails and you show the art director. The art director chooses which one to go with, and then you move on to different steps. And then I brought it into, I did like a 3D blockout just so I could, rotate it kind of and see it from how the player would see it in first person view. I will go into that later on if we have time. I'm going to do a live demo and show you guys a quick process, because obviously I don't have enough time to do like a full blown design, but we'll do something quick and sketchy, and you guys can get a feel for how I go about it. And I see that there's some questions in the chat, so let me take a sec. Did you run into any challenges suiting the weapon to the aesthetic of R6? Definitely, yeah. That's one of the main things is that the art director is in charge of. Concept artists will give them really cool designs, but then the art director is there to be like, all right, these are cool, but does that fit with the vibe of Rainbow Six, right? It needs to be realistic enough. It needs to fit with the character, the operator that it's going to be with. So 100% with every project, every concept that I do, that is always an essential note that the art director makes sure that is in line, with the game. I'll answer one more because I do have lots to present. So, do you start with a silhouette at the beginning to create a shape? Yeah, that's a great question. So, I sometimes start with a silhouette. That's a really great way to actually do weapon design if you're doing it, if you're creating a whole new weapon. But I'll go back a bit. So since doing weapon design for video games, normally, unless you're creating an entirely new weapon, which is really cool, normally you're going to be doing skins, which is also cool, for pre-existing base guns in the game. So there's not too much wild stuff that you can do with the silhouette alone. So I don't spend too much time on the silhouette. I definitely do start there. Just mainly to make sure that it's in line with the base gun. And then a lot of the stuff that makes it look different is within the shapes, different materials, different colors, different little details, a lot of stuff that you'll see when you rotate it in 3D as well. So, but yes, I do start with silhouettes. That's a really great way to start. And I will also get into that later on in the presentation. So just you wait. Okay. I'm gonna go through this a little quicker because there's some stuff that you guys can learn, and this is just my work. This is actually another weapon that I did for the same gun. I'm not sure if you guys can notice the similarities, but there's a space above, the barrel part. There's that hole, and it's got that little lever trigger thingy. Those are real terms. Lever trigger thingy. So basically, that's also the same base gun as the first one I showed you guys. And so I had to do this was a different theme, different character, same character, different theme. And so, yeah, just same gun, but find a new way to make it look cool, basically, and fit the theme. So I started with these. These were kind of my thumbnails. I had some color, but I was definitely thinking in grayscale, and I would kind of go back and forth between grayscale and color to see if that worked. And then I wanted to show this because this stuff is from like 2-3 years ago. So looking back on my old stuff, I'm like, yeah, I spent a lot of time on these side views. Like nowadays, I'd probably do 3 to 5, no more than 5, maybe 6. And they'd all be very, very differently because it's just a side view. There's a lot of little noodling you can do in a side view, and you'd be like, oh, this is going to look cool. I'm going to make it look cool here and here. But remember, this is going into a 3-dimensional video game. So players are not going to see it from the side all the time. Most of the time, they're going to see it when it's turned towards you like this, or you see the back of it. So all this little stuff that I was doing, spending time on, really doesn't change much. What I should have done is kind of, they all are the broad same shape. So I should have just taken one and kind of brought it into 3D. And I can show you, you can do that in Photoshop too. You don't need to use a 3D program, and just kind of get an idea of how it'd look from a different perspective. Because it's easy to get lost and just keep tweaking the side view and just actually like render it. But it's much more valuable if you spend your time making sure the forms in three-dimensional space look appealing from that other view as well, not just the side view. So I included that just to show you guys that, like, yeah, you improve over time and you make mistakes, and yeah, always learning, always learning. This is actually what I was talking about. This is a first-person view that was created solely in Photoshop. So I didn't use any 3D for this. It was a very sketchy, rough method, but I will show you guys how to do this. It's awesome. It saves a lot of time. And if you're wondering like how something might look in 3D, you can just do this really quickly just to get an idea. Obviously, it's not perfect. It's very sketchy, but broadly speaking, you get a feel for how it's going to look in the end result. So yeah, more sketches. In that project, we had each, you'd do the base gun, and then they wanted a concept for all the attachments. So like the scope and the muzzle, like foregrip, and little laser on the side, and the magazine. All those, it was required to do a concept for that too, so it fits into the theme. So that obviously you could, by the tone of my voice, you can hear it's like that's not the best part. The best part is the base gun. It's the coolest part. So this was just added stuff, but it was fun to design. So just showing that stuff as well. The scopes were probably my favorite attachment wise. So yeah, I gather reference and then noodle around with different ways of, in this case, these are different battery locations. So whatever looks cool, that's literally, it's got to look cool. That's one of the main things you need to have. Yeah, different views. Yeah, okay. Almost, yeah, this is just some more stuff. The design was almost done at this point, but I flipped it around and realized that, oh my God, there's a hole on the other side of the gun where bullets come out of. In the first example at the top, you can see that it was not going to work well. There was a strap covering it. The shape was not going to allow any hole to be placed there. So I had to adjust this design and for it to work properly. So that's another lesson I learned. Always see what it looks like on the other side before you get too, before you dive into the detail too much. And then this is the last one. I wanted to include this because obviously you can see it's a radical difference in style. Same game, same project that I worked on, but as you can see, this one I spent hours and hours rendering with painting and little tiny brush strokes. I'm just kidding. This is photo bashed. So yeah, this is most of this is photo bashed, and yeah, just another way of designing. I did some photos and then I painted on top, and it was new to me as well. So it was a cool learning experience, and it fit the task because the task was it was a scuba diver. So like, what kind of weapon do you give a scuba diver? or a combat scuba diver, right? In the real world, normally they just use a normal weapon because weapons work underwater actually, or they don't malfunction when they're underwater, so you don't need any special stuff on them. So it's like, what do I do? So I just ended up attaching little hoses and things to it that make it look cool. Yeah, there's a trend, guys. So yeah, that's this one. And yeah, that's I can't show you. These are the ones that are released in game. I did a lot more, but they're not released yet. So it sucks because the stuff from my current job on Siege, they're not in the game yet. So I'm showing old work, but it's it's actually nice that I'm able to show this because maybe a year ago, it wasn't released yet. So I wasn't able to show anything that I worked on. So yeah, it's kind of nice to be able to show that. Okay, so this is the bread and butter of the presentation. It's a different style of presentation. I thought a cool way of doing it is you guys are going to level up as you learn stuff, and being weapon design for video games have levels. You progress. That's a fun thing to do. So I thought, why not? And it's kind of how I've been orchestrating my life recently. So it's kind of a fun way to learn stuff and feel good about it because you leveled up in life. So yeah, thought why not? So to start with, we're gonna start right from the beginning. And I'm not sure if you guys know, but we're just right from the beginning. What is concept art? We're gonna go over that. And then we'll make the level 2. We'll talk about weapon design 101 and just the broad design rules and little things to be aware of when designing weapons. And then level 3 has a lot of good stuff in there. I spent a long time packing in the design fundamentals. I actually learned some stuff as I was putting this presentation together, so that was fun. And bear with me if some of the slides are a little bit goofy. I had fun with it, but it's there's a lot to go into. So level 3 will be fun, and then level 4 I will show you my process, and then level 5 doing the thing will be the live demo. Level 4 doing the thing are kind of together. So yeah, that's the roadmap. You guys are ready to go. We'll take a little break, not yet, but at level 4 before we do the live demo, just because it's 3 hours, so it's quite a long time. And grab some snacks and use the washroom. Yeah, so we're gonna do some learning now. I hope you guys are ready. Here we go. Oh, also, yes, concept art, school teaches that in depth. They have a whole class on it. And design fundamentals, really great class. I learned most of this stuff from Max the Mud. So just can't express how much it's helpful. Just the fundamentals. Yeah. Okay. Starting level 1. Let's get into it. Level 1. Okay. So what is concept art? This is taken right from the internet. No shame. I will read it out to you guys. So concept art is a visual form of art used to express ideas for projects like film, video games, animations, and more before the final product is created. It's essentially the blueprint or visual language that helps create the look and feel of a project. Concept artists use various techniques like illustration, sketching, and painting to convey their vision to others, like art directors, producers, and 3D modelers. I couldn't have said it better myself. So that is in words, that is how it is. Now, because we are artists, visuals. So these are basically all the types of concept art that you could have. At the top left, you have weapon design. And right to that is like character design. And beside that would be props. You have creature design, you have vehicle design, and you have environment design. So that is concept art. It's whatever you want to think about and make real. You do concept art for it. So that's concept art. All right. Congrats, guys. You passed. You moved on to level 2. Woo! Exactly. All right. Hope you guys are liking this. So, level 2. What is weapon design for video games? So basically, video game weapon design focuses on creating visually appealing and functionally effective weapons that enhance the gameplay experience. It involves understanding the game's context, the player's needs, and the desired level of realism or fantasy, while ensuring the weapons are balanced and engaging. Yes, I agree with all of that. That is a part of my job every day. Explains it very well. And the pictures at the bottom, as you can see, on the left would be the concept art. And one of the most exciting things about being a concept artist, but I think a weapon artist in general, is all concept artists, you get to see your concept, your two-dimensional drawing come to life basically in a 3D like form with shiny textures and everything, because the 3D modeler will take your work as a blueprint and then make it. And man, I remember seeing my first concept made into a 3D gun. It's so cool. Like, it's one of my favorite things about my job is that it's just seeing your work become a thing. It's quite awesome. So yeah, that's weapon design. I think that's no. Oh, we got some more. Okay, here we go. The guts of a gun. So these are all correct. These labels are correct. These are all things on a weapon. If this also, no, I did not design anarchy. That is a concept that I really like, and but I did not design that. So basically, all of these, if this doesn't confuse you and you stress you out, then I that's not normal. This is a lot. This is very complicated and confusing. So let's break it down into something a little more simple. I'm not sure if I did it on the next slide. Okay, so we're gonna move to Photoshop, and I'm gonna do a little doodle to break down that confusing sketch for you guys. So bear with me as I transition screens. Let's see how we do this. Present something else. Okay. All right, there we go. So now we are transported into Photoshop, and I will do a simplified version of this crazy complicated thing. So here we go. So if you guys can see, that's the same image. There's a lot going on here. And if you're just starting with weapon design, this makes no sense, and this is not helpful whatsoever. So to make it a little more easy to understand, let's go with the basics. So first and foremost, I like to start, everyone's got a preference, but I like to start with where you actually grab this thing. So, oopsies, is this color? There we go. So I'm just gonna do some doodles on top. So right here, this is where you grab it with your hand. and it is called a pistol grip. So it's a grip, any kind of grip that you can fit your hand around. That's an important part of a weapon, because if you can't grab it, you can't use it. So you need that. And then, as we can see right next to it, let's do another color. These colors are awesome. This guy right here, this little thing, is called the trigger. So this is what you use your index finger. You can use whatever finger you want, but you probably want to use your index. And you pull that, and that fires the gun and shoots a little projectile out of the barrel. So speaking of a barrel, by the way, I'm kind of just doing this, winging this. This is kind of working as we go from one thing to the next. So that's nice. All right. So basically, you pull this little thing, and then a bullet inside here gets shot out of right here, this long doohickey thingy. That's the barrel. That's inside the weapon, and there are mechanisms going on in here. There's like a piston and all that, blah blah blah. You don't need to know that. you can learn that if you get really into it, by all means, but you don't need to know that for when you're just starting out. Just to get a feel for what you're looking at, you just need to know that this little trigger shoots a bullet out of this long thing, and it's like a cylinder, right? It's hollow, so there's a bullet can fit inside and shoots out. I'm sorry if this is sounding very, very caveman-like, but I am trying to go as simple as possible and literally how I would want to learn when I was just starting out, because I knew nothing about weapons at some point. Actually, when I first started, I did not know any of the names really, other than probably barrel and trigger. I knew those, but everything else I was like, what? So yeah. All right. So we got grip, trigger, barrel, and then you're probably going to want some things to shoot out of that barrel. So, and to have more things to shoot out of the barrel, you'll want a container to hold those things. We'll call them bullets. And that's going to be right here. So this is called a magazine. And basically you shove that up into this little space here. That's called a magazine well. It's hollow. There's a hole. So this magazine goes up, and all your little bullets in here, these are bullets, they'll fit up in there. And when you pull the trigger, one will shoot up, another one will fly out. Right? That's what you see when people shoot a weapon. Something flies out. That's a used bullet, basically, being discharged from that hole that I was talking about earlier, that's on the other side of the weapon that you want to make sure that you have space in your design for. So bullets will fly out of that. Yeah, exactly, an ejected round. So it comes out of the ejection port, and a new fresh bullet is loaded in at the same time on automatic weapons. We're not going to go into how each type of weapon works, because that would last forever. And honestly, I don't know. But we're doing the basics. So that would be your magazine. And yeah, so that would be the magazine. Bullets going out. You need to make some sound effects for sure. Okay. And then to hold everything together, basically, in that area, let's say that there's something to hold them together. And that would be this right here. You can include that too. It's like a blocky. We could even simplify it into like a big rectangle, something like that. Yeah. This is going to be your receiver, basically the main body of the gun. And that's where all the stuff goes on, and the explosions happen. They happen right in there. all the ejecting of the shells and everything. It's all in there. So it's kind of cool. If we actually turn this off, it looks like a funny gun, but it kind of looks like a pistol with a, or a machine pistol maybe with a large barrel, right? It's kind of cool when you start learning about how guns are even this simple. You kind of like experiment with different ideas, and that's how you can concept new crazy guns, by learning just basically how they work, and then like shorten the barrel. We won't get into it. We'll do that later. You see, I want to start messing around, but we got a schedule to hold up to. Okie dokie. So next, for this weapon in particular, if you have a pistol, you don't need it. But if you have an assault rifle or anything with anything that you want more stability with, you're going to have what's called a stock, or a butt stock. I don't know why they call it butt, and they use two T's with it too. That's makes me laugh every time. Here's your butt stock. So this guy right here, that is there to rest up against the person that's firing, right? That piece of wood or whatever, it's just like that's what you're gonna hold to your body when you shoot the weapon. And sometimes if you have, not with all weapons, but sometimes the barrel, sometimes the barrel continues through this thing. You've got little springs for recoil, so it'll actually go inside the buttstock. It's not really really major thing to know. It's just if you're doing like a rifle, you're going to have space behind that this trigger. Yeah, and if we turn that off, now you can see it doesn't really look like a pistol with a long barrel anymore, right? It's now it's starting to look like a bigger gun, and it's all because of that buttstock. So basically, all these little shapes that you're learning are kind of going together to create what we know as the visual form of a gun. And basically, there's not many of them. I didn't count. Maybe we can count later. We don't need to. But there's not as many as all this jargon up here, right? It's actually quite easy to grasp when you simplify it like this. Okay, we're going by kind of like importance. So I'd say the next thing is, if you're going to shoot and you want it to hit something, probably want it to be accurate. So on the top of the gun, you're going to have stuff that stick up. Yeah, stuff. In this case, is an iron sight, but you could have anything that really lines up your shot so that you can shoot where you want it to go. And basically, the iron sight will line up like that, so you can see where the bullet's going to go. Also, it doesn't need to be an iron sight. It can be what's called a scope. So you attach it to the top. Usually there's some like rails here, and it just slots in like I was going to say Lego, but not like Lego. Maybe like Bionicle, if you guys know what that is. If you guys know what that is, respect. But basically it slots in like hell yeah. Bionicle was the best. Basically it slots in, so it's locked in place, and you can actually take out whatever sight you want, customize it. That's part of the weapon that can be really customized. And the cool thing about that, the scope alone, if you change it to be like whatever massive scope, now it's going to start looking like a sniper rifle, right? We haven't changed anything about anything else, but if you just do that, okay, that looks like a sniper rifle. And if you like take it away, you're like, oh, it doesn't really look like a sniper rifle anymore, right? It's kind of cool. it's not just about the barrel. Yeah, I was gonna do something else, but well, okay. One more thing. If we take out the barrel, I'm just curious to see, and we have a scope. Will it look like a sniper rifle? I'm honestly not sure. It might look like a little dinky sniper rifle, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think you need kind of a long barrel, but you guys get the picture, right? We're gonna keep it like that because I like that. Nope, we're not gonna do that actually because there's one more thing. Okay, the last thing, because if we just had that, it kind of there's something missing. Basically, that is the cover that goes over the barrel. Basically, for your little hands so they don't get toasted, because when you start shooting, that metal is going to heat up. And if you're gripping that barrel with your bare hands, you're going to have some barbecue smelling fingers. So basically, we have a piece of wood or uh, some kind of cage that goes around this barrel so that you can hold it like out there with your other hand for stability, but you don't end up burning your little fingers off. And yeah, that is, I think I covered, that's all you really need to know when you're designing a gun. Just those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts. That's it in simple terms. If you want to go into the little detail stuff, you can, but I'd say start here. You have your shape. It looks like a gun. It looks like it could fire. So that's all we really need. All right. So let's go back to the presentation. And I think you guys are going to pass level 2 at some point. It's getting close. I'm not entirely sure, but we're getting close. All right, here we go. Windows. All right. Also, yes. So now you know what a gun is made up of, all those little parts. If you are designing concepts for a video game, I'm actually not sure. It's a good question. I've seen that word before. The cameras, and maybe this is just a basic. It's like a long range DMR, maybe. But basically, you're gonna have limitations to your designs. So for instance, you'll have attachments that go into these specific points. As you can see, with the front little grip, little stick sticking down, and the scope on top, there's those little like castle ridges. I don't know what else to call them, but they're called Picatinny rails. And those are like the one we're talking about, the Lego, but not Lego, Bionicle slots that you can interchange things with. And from my experience for the past 2 projects I worked on, those, wherever those were on the base gun, those had to stay exactly the same with the new concepts. You couldn't change that. So you just had to be aware, okay, I can design cool stuff around those areas, but I need to make sure that I leave space for those so that, players can customize their weapon in those same spots. Yeah. And then with the barrel, you'll have you can see there's like a little thing on the end, which is a little muzzle or a silencer. You're going to have, you can't extend the weapon past that point, because it needs to end. It needs to terminate at that point for the attachment on the barrel to work. Yeah. And then the magazine is a same spot. You're going to have a charging handle to like reload. That's got to be the same location. The grip for where you hold it, same. Also the buttstock, you have to keep that the same distance, if it's too small, it'll look weird because the operator will be firing it, but they won't be like the butt stock won't be against them, so it'll look weird. And then if it's too long, you're basically skewering them. It's going to clip, what we call, so it clips into the 3D mesh, and it just looks really bad. So that's another limitation. The weapon can only be a certain length, basically. So those are limitations. I think there's one more. Yeah, it's the iron sights on top. So if the weapon has iron sights, so basically two little sticks. We'll call them sticks that flip up, and I don't know if you can see my camera, but basically they're on either end of the weapon, and you can line them up so that you can aim. Those need to be non-obstructed. So when you're designing, you don't want to design in this area between them. You don't want to go above that yellow line, because then you're obstructing the view. And then when the player uses this weapon, it's going to be a cool gun, but they're going to have the stuff in front, and they won't be able to see what they're shooting at. So there's that to consider too. These are the main limitations that come with every concept. All right, look at that. You guys passed level 2. Passed level 2. How do you guys feel? How do you feel? You guys are leveling up. We're going to level 3. Let's go. Pretty confident, Matthew. Let's go. Hell yeah. Sahib, celebrate. All right, level 3. Let's get into it. What we got? I think I know what this is. Design fundamentals. This is the bread and butter of this class. You will learn the most with this. And bonus, the design fundamentals you can apply to any design. If you're interested in characters, landscapes, whatever, all these design fundamentals can be used in any kind of concept. Doesn't need to be weapons. So stick around for this, because it's quite good. All right, let's get into it. Yes, design fundamentals to make your designs more awesome. So there's a few. So there's material variation, there's big, medium, small, there's theme, there's shape language, details versus rest, flow and rhythm, 70-30 rule, color, form follows function, and last but not least, values. So again, if you guys are not overwhelmed with this, I don't think you're human. This is a lot. These are a lot of words and a lot of different things. But don't worry, we will go into each one and I will explain them individually. So let's get into it. And also I use all these for work too. So they're quite useful. Theme. I'm actually going in most important. So we're going to start with theme. That's the most important for weapon design. Scenario. You've got a pirate, right? And he needs a weapon. He's a pirate. He's got to defend himself. I'll ask you the question. What kind of weapon are you going to give him? Are you going to give him a sci-fi pistol? Or are you going to give him a flintlock pistol? If you said the sci-fi gun, that's not going to fit the theme. See? We're going to go with the flintlock. He'd like that one more because it fits the century, and I mean, yeah, basically that's it. That's what theme is. It's before you design any cool shapes, you want to think, okay, what century are we in? What style of weapon is this? You want to think really broad. that's a pretty important one, and that's one that kind of goes unnoticed, I'd say. And I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes I'll start designing cool shapes, and I'll be like, wait a sec, hold on. I think I'm not really fitting the theme here. So keep that one in mind. That's a good, useful one. And then second, we have form follows function. This one is tricky, and it took me a little bit to kind of figure out, planning it out in this presentation, and also think about it, because it's a little hard to figure out. Let's get into it. So this is a gun, right? It looks pretty good. Looks like it works. This is also a gun, but I don't think it looks like it works. I don't know about you guys, but that might not function. That might not function well. So it's got an interesting form, right? But in this case, function, looking like a gun that fires, you want to nail that first before you start playing with shapes. Just like we did with that colorful doodle on top, all those locations, you want to make sure that those are correct first, and then you do your design on top. Because if you start designing and doing crazy cool shapes before you nail down those key locations, then you might end up with a gun that looks like the one on the right. And it may look cool, but people are not going to understand how you're supposed to use it. So you might get shot while using it, because this one looks like you're gonna get shot in the chest when you use it. That's not very nice. So that's important. Cool shape is secondary to the functional design. Yes. Okay. Yeah, this is basically what I said. But you have this weapon. You want to make sure that all those spots are in the right location, and then you do a cool design on top. And yeah. Bonus. This may get a little confusing, but let's look at my little doodle here. You can switch that around, and you will have, instead of form being more important than function, form follows function. Instead of function being more important than your form, you start with your form first. So basically, we've got a hockey player, and he needs a weapon. For whatever reason, I don't know, don't ask me, but how are we going to make it look like a hockey player has a gun? How are we going to make this gun look like it suits a hockey player? Well, I mean, I drew it. So a stick is a hockey stick is nice. That's a cool, Matthew. Yeah, the hockey stick can kind of fit a barrel, right? For instance, use a hockey stick, slap on those functional forms afterwards. You make sure that you still have that cool form. That's more important of the hockey stick, but you still have those functional elements like the trigger and the pistol grip and the scope and the magazine. Those all need to be there, because if they're not there, it's not going to look like a gun, right? But so you want to have both. You want to have form and function. And in this case, you also want the form of the hockey stick to be visible. So basically, bottom line, you want them both. You want cool form, but you also want good function. All right. Sorry if that was confusing. It kind of confuses me too. So I'm sure there's other videos on YouTube about this, but hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Yeah. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah. So moving on to big, medium, small. You guys may have heard this term before, because it's kind of one of the more popular ones out there, especially if you follow like concept artists on YouTube. They'll talk about big, medium, small. Basically, in your designs, for them to look appealing, because this is just appealing now. We're past the functionality of a weapon working. Now it's like, okay, let's make it look cool. you want your designs to have a variety of shapes. So in the first example on the top, you've got a gun with blocks that are pretty similar in size. And it's nice, but I think we can all agree that the weapon below, it varies those blocks. And so there's something a little more interesting. Your eyes kind of dance around it a little bit more. It's a little more interesting to read. Because we like things that are varied. If it's just like big, then it's kind of boring. Same small, medium. You want a variety of those things to just create some interest to your designs. And like I said, this can be applied to landscapes, right? This can be applied to characters. Characters, you can have different type of armor, big, medium, small. Landscapes, different mountains, big mountain, medium mountain, small mountain. It applies to everything. We like variety, and so um, basically, yeah, all those shapes are similar, and then this one's nice because there's different sizes. It's just we like to see it. We like to see it. All right, so the next one is the 70-30 rule, and I included this right after big, medium, small because it's pretty similar. They're pretty similar. There's a little difference, but basically, the one at the top, the internal shapes are split up in like 50-50, right? Um, so it's the one at the bottom is split up more like 70-30. And if it's kind of confusing, basically 70, so you have a big shape. Look at the main big rectangle of the gun. That's your block. And then the 70-30 is we split that block up into different percentages. So for instance, the big empty space in the middle, that would be like 70% of the over the main form. If we did a silhouette of this, that main form, we're splitting that up into different percentages. And if we split it up 50-50, it's not going to look as exciting as if we split it up 70-30 or 80-20 or even 60-40. I go with 70-30 because it's kind of varied enough, and it looks like you know what you're doing. Like you visually have two different shapes that are quite different in size, and basically that it's just a nice way of breaking up those bigger shapes. Yeah, that's kind of a good way of saying it. Next one is details versus rest. So the one at the top has a lot of details and no place for your eyes to rest, right? You're kind of like, wow, okay, that's a lot going on there. And it's kind of exhausting looking at that first gun. Then you look at the second one at the bottom, it's like, okay, there's some detail on the grip. There's some like stuff there, little buttons. Okay. And then, okay, nice. There's like some big space on the main part. It's actually really important to have areas on your design that basically have nothing there because it gives the viewer a chance to rest. And it's white space. Yeah, basically it's kind of a weird concept to grasp at first because it would seem that the more detail and the more cool stuff you put into a drawing, the cooler it's going to look, right? But it's just not the case when it comes to having a design that just is nice to look at. There's examples of like you look at Overwatch or I reference to Overwatch because all their designs are really nice, and you just look at any of their designs and they have areas in the armor of say like robots or characters where it's just very simple, and then you'll have little spots where there's lots of detail, and it's really nice to have that because you, you can focus on the detail and not stress out about detail being everywhere. um, I don't know how else to explain it. It's a nice way of breaking up your design. So you want to have areas of rest for your eyes, and you want to have little areas of detail, and that's a good design. So the next one will be shape language. So yeah, I included some reference for this. These are characters and creatures. Again, it applies to everything. Basically, there's three main forms that you can use to convey a feeling when you look at the drawing or the shape, which is crazy. Like if you read these examples, the circle, when you look at a circle, it feels friendly, right? And it's just like, I guess because it's circular and there's no pointy edges, we see that as, oh, that's like a nice squishy pig, and he looks really friendly. And a square, we see that as, okay, more strong and like built and just tough. Um, we see things like blocks in the real world, right? Blocks are very square and tough and strong. The way that buildings are built, very blocky, very geometric, right? Um, and then the last one would be triangle. If you draw something with pointy edges or very diagonal shapes, it's going to get a sense of either dangerous or, um, yeah, dangerous, aggressive. There's motion to it. It's exciting, maybe. Um, we see that in the real world, right? It's definitely Matthew. Yeah, diagonal is sleek. Yeah, and it can show motion too. Not emotion, but it can show motion. We see that in the real world, right? Like people, I don't know, when you have shoe design, a lot on the design of the shoes have a lot of diagonal, swoopy lines. Um, it's plays in that. It's we see if you've got a sharp, spiky rock, you're like, oh, I don't want to jump on that thing. But if you have a rock that's really soft and round, you're like, okay, maybe I'll jump on that. Um, yeah, so it's these shapes that we see in real life. We can use these feelings that we get from these shapes in our designs to make the viewer feel a certain way about the concept. So yeah, again, it's like in characters, the chef on the right, he looks very built. In the center, he looks kind of squishy and sad, but he looks a little more friendly than, for instance, the guy on the right. That looks like I don't know, I can't trust this guy. He looks like he's up to something, you know. So he's more angular. There's something a little dangerous about him. So we can apply that to weapons. Go figure. So yeah, square can be strong. An angular triangle that can be aggressive, right? And circle and curvy lines can feel comfortable, nice to hold. Maybe it shoots bubbles. I don't know. This one, maybe it shoots large bullets, right? If you guys know Warhammer, their guns are very blocky and they shoot big bullets. And part of the reason why it feels like that is because the shapes are very square. If, for instance, it was like very soft and curvy, you wouldn't get the same feeling, right? So maybe the gun in the middle has a fast rate of fire. It just kind of feels like it would do that because just the shapes alone, right? You don't hear it. No one's telling you anything about it. There's no descriptions of it, but just the shapes alone, you already get a sense of what kind of gun this is. Like just the shapes alone. And yeah, maybe that shoots bubbles. I don't know. All right, shape language. So now moving on to flow and rhythm. So this one is kind of cool. Yeah, this is interesting. So at the top left, you have a gun that has a bunch of curvy lines, and basically that's a, how do we want to say this? Yeah, it's got a bunch of lines. When you look at it, a type of flow with the lines could be line. Again, I'm sorry if this is confusing, but basically this is flow. When you do design, you can use cut seams or shadows even, or just lines going across the the form to convey a flow. So when you look at it, you kind of feel this kind of movement to it. And again, movement, it could be like a ripple effect, right? If you see those lines, there's a reason why I drew it like that. That one is surrounding the other one, almost like when you drop a pebble into water and it ripples out like that. That's another way of flow, and you can emulate that same effect in your designs just by being aware of this phenomenon. I don't know how to say it. I guess fundamental. Yeah. So the one on the right side would be rhythm. And this is tricky, but basically what rhythm is if you think about it in like music, you've got notes on a sheet of paper that kind of jump from one to the next. That's kind of like this, right? You've got a bigger shape, and then beside the smaller one, and then a smaller one, and a smaller one. When you look at that, you see movement through not line, not a ripple effect, but by shapes that are in a line and they get smaller or they get larger, right? Or at the bottom on the grip, you can see how it's um, kind of almost it's rippling out like the water, the pebble in the water, but it's like it's got rhythm to it because it's those shapes. You're hopping one to the next. So that'd be rhythm. And then the ones at the bottom, I tried my best to do the worst job at getting flow and rhythm. And I will be honest, when I did this, I had this realization that you don't need to have flow and rhythm. Just being aware of that, because when you look at this example on the bottom left, there is no flow, right? All these lines are going which way and which they're just splitting up, almost like it's cracking. That is, you get a feeling for that. It's not wrong though. It has no flow, but you get another feeling, and that's chaos, right? It just feels like this weapon is just, maybe it's got these parts that are just linked together, bolted to it, and just very chaotically, almost like the orcs are in and whatever. Yeah, having a brain fart. But you can have elements to your designs that just are placed so randomly. There's no flow. There's no care for it to look nice, and that's a type of design. It's not wrong. It's it's just another type of design. So that's kind of cool. And then the second one is I tried my best to have shapes that had no rhythm. So almost like a cow, where it's got spots kind of everywhere. In this example, there's just spots randomly placed. Your eyes don't really know which way to go. That's spotty, right? That's not necessarily wrong though. You get a different feeling for it if you want something that's spotty. I don't know. Sometimes there's a case scenario where you want something just to feel blocky and random a little bit, but it's just another type of design. And so yeah, flow and rhythm. Basically, what you need to know is you can have flow and rhythm in your designs, but you don't need to. You The lack of flow and rhythm is also a design choice, and you will generate a feeling of either chaos or, for lack of a better term, spottiness in your designs when you don't have flow or rhythm. And yeah, that's just another way of getting some feeling from whatever you're looking at. Then we have values. This is a good one too. So values. So the one on the left is has the values. I guess if we look at the bottom here, you have from 1 to 9. You can see all the different. They're called values, different shades of gray, from white all the way to black, and the spaces in between. For example, 1, the gun that's on the far left, that is what we call low contrast, because all the values are located kind of in a little section. There's no bright whites, there's no dark darks. It's just all the values are really similar. So there's that. Yeah, you get a feeling of kind of monotony. It's kind of bland. But on the flip side, you can have a design with high contrast. And sorry, the values will be um, on the using values from opposite sides of the spectrum. So you get this very jarring feel to what you're looking at. And this is not necessarily wrong. Neither is low contrast. But it's just good to be aware of these design choices, because you will create this feeling when people look at it. Low contrast, you'll feel, okay, it's nice. High contrast, you'll be like, wow, that's impactful. Maybe you want your weapon to stand out, be like a statement piece. High contrast might be the way you want to go. And then the last one is a safe bet, because it is kind of it's balanced contrast. Basically what it is, it has a variety of values. So it's not all one little section, and it's not just two opposite, very contrasty values. It kind of uses a melody of a bunch of these different values. And so the it makes your design look more exciting. You can show stuff like, for instance, the trigger, that's a lighter value against a darker one. That's kind of highlighted more. And then other elements within that darker shape, like the barrel or the ejection port, are closer to the dark part, so they're not as visible. And so it's another way of highlighting certain areas. And speaking of that, what you can do is you can have a contrast point, and you can take which we've learned from high contrast and apply that to your balanced contrast, and have an area where you have a very dark section right up against a very light section. And that will create a focal point where you'll immediately be drawn to that, right? Without it, you kind of, I mean, with it, you're like, okay, that's something I see. Like that's quite draws my attention there. And go figure, you're using all of them. So that's kind of a good rule of thumb to remember. So when you're doing a design, you want to stick to balanced contrast, unless you have an idea and maybe you want to do low contrast or high contrast. At least now you know what they all mean, and the kind of feeling that you get from having those. So yeah. That is the gist of value design. And then color, you want to do this after you've got your values, right? Color is basically when you get your values the way you want them in black and white, then you can be like, okay, now let's add some color to the piece. And if your values are if it looks good in grayscale like this, then basically any colors that you add on top, it's also going to look nice because your values work. And I should have done an example where the values were closer together or maybe too high contrast. But basically, if your values are good like this, if it looks good like that, then you can put color on and you're going to be pretty safe. So your values are like the foundation to your color, right? Your color just kind of, yeah, foundation is a good word. Color just kind of stands on top of value and adds some juice to the design. And then last but not least, because we're going in order of importance, last but not least, the cherry on top would be materials. With all my concepts, I save this to the very last because it is just the detail that goes into the last little bit of a design. It's the stuff that you really see when people look at the design, but it's definitely not the most important. And if you don't think about the other things, then basically you just want to wait to do this last, even though it's really fun and you can have cool sparkly textures or really gritty rocks, or you can slap some gold onto a gun. I don't know who doesn't like gold. So those are really fun and those play into your design. However, wait until the very last step to do those. And I think I did just, yeah, there's kind of like a cool look. There are so many materials out there in this world. You could go crazy and just iterate on different materials for days. I think that we're done. Look at that, guys. You passed level 3. Congrats. Oh my gosh, let's do the celebration in the chat. That was a tough one. That was a lot. That was a lot. I commend you guys for sticking around. Because you probably that's a lot of information to soak in and completely understand. If you're probably going to forget about that, but just knowing about this, and you can watch the video over again and just looking into these things, the fundamentals are really helpful, and I always find I'm going back to those. So those are my main fundamentals to stick to. And like I said, yeah, if you forget all this, don't even worry. It's a lot of information. Just you made it to level 4. All right. So level 4, that will be the process. Everything that we've learned, and then we just do the thing, right? So all these ideas we got, okay, let's actually make a cool design now. So I kind of, oh, we're back. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I think I lost internet for a couple of seconds. All right. We're back. That was a big tea break. That was a nice slurp. All right, here we go. So the process, I broke it down into 10 steps. So from start to finish, this is what I like to, and I say that with quotations. I truly try to stick to this method so that I stay organized and having a process. This is really good to sink in. It's really nice to have a process that you know all your steps to get to the end goal, because it just relieves yourself of, like, you can get stuck into doing something, and say you're doing rough sketches and you're like, I want to finish this, but like, how, like, when is this, what do I do to finish this? So it's really nice. Your process can be completely different. This is mine. It can be different for different people, but having your own process, and having it stepped out so that once you're done one thing, you move on to the next and to the next. Just like the levels that you guys are upgrading in, having that planned out is really nice so that you're progressing, you're getting closer to the end result. You're going to finish your concept. It's going to be amazing. And you have your path, right? So the way I like to do it, uh, and this is how it works in the industry, from what I know, is the art director will give you a brief, and they'll basically tell you what needs to be done, right? So they'll be like, okay, we want to design a gun that, say it's for Christmas, right? That's my favorite time of year. So it's got to have, I don't know, Santa's face slapped on the side, and it's got to have some snowflakes, whatever. All that's the brief, right? That's the idea. That's where you start, right? That's the recipe. And then once the art director is like, okay, this is what you should do. Now, what you do as a concept artist is you start looking for inspiration, whether that be, if it's snowing and it's wintertime, you look out your window. If it's not, or you need more reference, mostly you go to Google or you go to Pinterest and you find photos that are Christmassy, or they fit the brief, right? Those would be your ingredients, right? So once you have those, this is before doing any drawing, any design. You one, two, you got your reference, you got your inspirations. Now you can start silhouetting. Um, at least this is how I like to do it. It keeps me organized. Then we do silhouetting, and I will do a demonstration of how I silhouette. But yeah, basically, I think Matthew said in chat, this is a great way to start because it's just a black form overall read. It's the first read when you see your design. So it's a great way to start. You want to start from big and then to specific. And you want to design the major thing first and then gradually do your details later. You don't want to start with details first. Just get the rough idea down. So once we got some silhouettes, then we will do value study. And within those silhouettes, I'll put some different values like we talked about. So it'll in the inside of your silhouette. Now you start designing in the interior, and like it says on the right, it breaks up the major shape in an interesting way, like big, medium, small, or what's the other one? 70-30. A really easy way to do that is with value thumbnails, because you can just use values to break up your shapes. Yeah. And then moving on, once you have a few of those, I like to start doing rough sketches. Sometimes I do rough sketches earlier on if I have an idea that pops into my head, and I'll take my sketchbook and I'll just scribble down something. That's a rough sketch. But after the values thumbnails, I like to draw on top of the values to kind of start thinking about the function, maybe not little details, but maybe cut lines and maybe different elements that would be on your design. I like to do that, just roughly, just sketching it out with some line work. Um, it's a fun stage where you just like you start sketching on top. Then number 6 would be side views. So as you saw in some of my progress, some of my previous work that I've done, I'll have all those side views. Once I do enough and I'm happy with them, I'll choose one that I like and I'll bring that into 3D. So I'll find a side that I like and say, okay, cool. Let's see how this looks like from a different view. Now I'll bring that into 3D program and I'll do a block out. If I have time, I will do a quick version of that just to show you guys my workflow. Yeah, so you want to do the block out to feel how the shape feels in perspective. Then I bring that block out back into Photoshop to do a paint over or do some line drawings on top of this really basic blocky form. Nothing detailed. I'm not a 3D artist. You know, my blockouts are very just jumbled and very geometrically basic. So I like to do a lot of my designing with my stylus. I like the painterly way of designing. So I always bring my stuff back into to 2D. I have colleagues that are really good in 3D and they're concept artists and they'll design stuff in Blender and it's crazy. And I mean, all the power to them because they can do some crazy stuff. But, you know, to each their own. Everyone's got their own way of doing it. So what I like to do is I'll bring back the block out and I'll do a painting or like a line drawing on top. And then, only then, will I start adding these cool little details, right? And I'll do the materials, add some lighting to it after all this is thought out. And then once I'm happy with the design, it looks good, then I'll just take the different views, lay them out on the page like you saw from my previous work. There, you got the 2 side views and then the first person view. That's all in presentation, the layout. That's the last little bit. Sometimes it can take longer than you expect. So it's always good to allow for a good day, I'd say, to do that, or at least a couple hours, because it can surprise you how much time it takes to gather all your things and do the last little adjustments and do the labels and little reference pictures. It could take some time. So that's definitely another step in completing the concept. And then that's it. That is it. There's nothing less, nothing more. Those 10 steps, you follow those, you have a concept at the other end. So yeah. And let's see what time it is, because we're gonna take a break shortly, but we'll go through that. We'll do a live demo and I can show you my process. So yeah, I think this is the brief. We'll do this live and I'll design a little gun. I'm gonna time myself too so I can hopefully get through all the steps. But I think, hold on, let me see what's next. Yeah. TB done in demo, doing the thing. Yeah. Okay. So this is correct. We're gonna take a 10-minute break. So stretch your legs. It's been a while. You guys have learned a lot. Use the washroom, grab some snacks. I can't play music. That's a note for me. But I do recommend when I'm doing the demo, put some background music on while I draw, or also draw along with me. That's fun. Put some background music on, some soft piano. It'll be really nice, and we're gonna have a good time. So I'll catch you guys back in about 10 minutes, and we'll get drawing. All right. All right. See you back in 10 minutes.
A few minutes later.
Yes, welcome back, everyone. Almost had a technical difficulty there, but that's not the case. My headset was resting on the power button, and when I went to go pick up my headset, I accidentally pressed the power button, and my computer was like, "Okay, we're shutting down now." I was like, "No!" But luckily, it asks you if you have a bunch of things open. Yes, close call. If you have a bunch of things open, it'll ask you, "Do you want us to shut down all this stuff?" So I had the option to say, "No, cancel." So there we go. Okie dokie. So where were we? I think I need to share my screen again. Yes, I do. Give me 1 second. Hope you guys got some nice snacks. Yeah, it was a nice little break, and let all that information just soak in. Because now is the fun stuff. Now we actually get to do some drawing. That's what we're all here for, right? Doing the design stuff. Okie dokie. How do I share my screen? Okay. So this was the previous. There we go. This was the previous slide we had open. I have it open to a brief tool that I built for myself. So when you don't have an art director, this is what you do. So this is how you can design your own stuff. Let's go into this on Photoshop so we can play around with it and scribble all over top of it. Okay, there we go. Photoshop, right here. Perfect. Okay, now we're in Photoshop. So, and by the way, I don't do this all the time, but this is a really good way of, if you want to start designing something, having a little brief builder tool is really nice to have. And I learned this from somebody else. This is not my own idea. None of my ideas are my own idea. I think that's a theme. So everyone shares their ideas and you learn from each other. So this is a really nice way of organizing your thoughts into a direction where you want to start. So I realize that we only have about an hour left. So if I want to get through all of this within an hour and show you all those 10 steps, I'm going to have to block it into 10 minutes per each, which is completely unrealistic when it comes to actually, if you're in the real world and you're designing something like a weapon, it's going to take weeks. So, but we're going to block it into 10 minutes, not seconds. And you guys will just get a rough idea of what I do, because I'm going to do something really, really basic, but try and get through each step so you guys get to see visually how I do what I do. Okay, so the brief, because we're starting with number 1, and I have these little things. This is the steps. That was cool in Photoshop. Okay, so with in this column, we've got the type of weapon. So this is obviously, whoops. This is obviously not all the types of weapons, but basically this is a broad spectrum of weapons. So yeah, you got pistol, you got revolver, shotgun, submachine gun, assault rifle, sniper rifle, light machine gun, and RPG. Those are all types of weapons, and we can design those. The wielder is important to think about, because who's going to have this weapon, right? That kind of plays into theme, like we touched on with the pirate, if you guys remember. So it's important to know who's going to be using this gun, because if we know who's going to be using this gun, then maybe maybe there's something special about it. that relates to that character. So could be a soldier, really basic. Could be a pilot, really cool. Could be a sniper, really cool. Could be a Could be a royal guard. Maybe it's really fancy. Could be a rebel, and maybe we add some of that chaoticness to it. It's just like rebels. They slap stuff on. It's very loosey goosey. Or it could be a spec ops special operator, and their weapon is very customized for doing a certain mission. Maybe it's all black too, shiny. Or a wizard. Who knows? It can be any kind of character. I don't discriminate. Actually, wizard would be the coolest. So, and then next we have era. Another important thing to think about, and it does relate to theme as well, because the weapon. Okay, you want to know what era are we designing this thing in. So it could be medieval, and there's a whole bunch of reference for medieval. Could be World War II, post-apocalyptic, modern warfare, near future, or cyberpunk. Obviously, these are not all the eras, and obviously, the ones at the bottom are figurative. They don't really exist yet. And there's more out there, but narrowing down what time, what era your design is going to take place in is really helpful for kind of finding your reference and your theme. So it all kind of fits together. And then last but not least, what's the function? And this does kind of play into form and function. What's the purpose of this gun? Is it for military use? Is it maybe a medical gun? Not many people do not tranquilizers, but like stim guns. I think in Siege, Doc, the operator, he's got a gun that shoots other teammates and it revives them. That's a type of weapon. I'd say that's a weapon. It's a good weapon. It helps you out. So hey, maybe that. Or rescue. Maybe it's like a grappling hook. It shoots out a grappling hook with a string, and so the person uses that to swing to rescue somebody in need. So I would say that's a gun, right? It looks like a gun, but the function is built for rescue. It's not built for killing. It doesn't need to be built for killing. Not all guns are built for killing. Let's just be clear. And Explorer. I think I don't know what I was doing with Explorer, but that could be another grappling hook. All right. So what time is it? Because I want to make sure that we get all this done. All right. I think I'm gonna choose a couple of them just to save on time because we need to hurry things up a little bit. But I do want to give you guys some choice in this, so it's a little more fun. So I will let you guys choose one of the categories. So okay, you guys are gonna get to choose. Yeah, let's say okay, two. How about two categories? So what's the wielder? Who's going to have this gun? And what's the function of the gun? All right. And I'll choose the rest. So type in chat out of those two, what do you guys want to see me design? And we'll choose from there. All right. In the meantime, I'm going to choose the other two. Actually, it might be good to see what you guys think first, because it might. Yeah, there's a lot of options. This is why it's really important to have this, so that you don't just think for days. You narrow it down. You focus your crazy brain. At least this is what I need to do. So, okay, let's see. I see some chats popping up. What are you guys thinking? RPG Wizard. Yeah. We gotta go Wizard. Victoria, Matthew, you guys are on the same page. Ken, Wizard, military, okay. Melanie, Rebel. Okay. All of them are cool. I feel like there's one that is that is a little Wade. So we will go with Wizard. That's our operator. And then for function, what are you guys thinking? RPG, military, RPG. Anybody else have any ideas for the? Well, actually, sure. Let's do RPG. Less thinking for me. Medical or rescue. Yeah. I want to choose someone else to have everyone's input. Melanie said rebel. Ken said wizard military. Anybody else have ideas for? Okay, Chu Chui. Hopefully I said your name right. Explore. The one I know nothing about. The one that let's go. You know what? This is problem solving at its finest. Okay. And let's choose the era. Let's go. Wizard, I feel like it's gonna be hard in any other era than medieval. It's a challenge, but not a challenge for an hour. So let's keep it simple. Let's do medieval. Okay. So our weapon, drumroll please. We're gonna have a weapon built for a wizard. He's gonna be using an RPG. It's gonna be in the medieval era, and he's gonna be using it to explore. That sounds awesome. Okay, let's do it. So, brief, check, check. Let's make that a group. Brief. I like to stay organized. I think I misspelled that, but who cares? Now, we're going to move on to reference gathering. So I'm going to take a screenshot. Or how do I do this? Just so I know what we're doing here. Okay, so this is just for reference. Okay, now reference gathering. Let me set a timer. We're already 2 minutes behind. Actually, no, we're not, because brief was one of the steps, so we're actually 8 minutes ahead. There we go. But we'll still do 10 minutes, just in case you buffer. And also, guys, ask any questions you have in the chat. I will do my best to pop my head up and check them out as I draw along. This is the ideal time. So also, put your tunes on, background music while I draw. I think I'm going to put some music on too. It's always nice to have some beats to draw to. And if you guys are feeling adventurous, have a shot as well. So we're going to draw an RPG wizard medieval explorer. And he uses the gun to explore. So if you guys want to start drawing, you don't have to, but if you want to, be my guest. Let's draw together. Okay, I'm gonna put some music on. And unfortunately, I wanted to play music for everyone so we could listen to the same thing, but Google Meets doesn't allow you to do that, unfortunately. You can't play music and share your screen at the same time. So I think it's better for you guys to see what I'm doing than hear what I'm listening to. Okay, piano. I'm gonna search a piano focus music. That is nice. Very chill. But it could be anything. If you guys, I don't know what you guys are into, but it could be like heavy metal, death march, Black Sabbath. Just start designing. That's the music. Okay, this is not. Here we go. Okie dokie. So I'm gonna share my screen because we're gonna gather some reference together. So let's share my other screen. Okay, so I have Pinterest opened up. This is my sorry. This is my go-to website for gathering photo reference. And yeah, okay. So we have an RPG building wizard in the medieval era, and we uses it to explore. So first, let's look at wizard. I think I know what a wizard looks like, but I just want to see some examples. I like this one. These guys are sitting on three. Copy that, and just to let you know what I'm doing, I'm pasting it into Photoshop. You guys will see it later. Can't share both my screens, but I like this guy too. He looks so chill. I love the long beard and the tall, pointy hat. I think is iconic for a wizard. Um, See, okay, this is another thing. It's really easy to get lost in the reference gathering phase because there's so many cool images to look at. That's why having a timer is helpful. And but yeah, it's easy to get lost. And you want to try not to get some images and then get back into designing because otherwise you're just going to be looking at stuff and not actually investing. Okay, so we got wizard, RPG. RPG. I have an idea what an RPG looks like, but even if you know what it looks like, RPG, role-playing games, even if you know what it looks like, it's always good to have reference. Okay, this is that's funny. Rocket propelled grenade. Maybe I have to use Google. Propelled grenade. That's what it stands for, by the way. You're wondering. There we go. You have to be specific. This is an RPG. Use a side view. We might actually, to save time, just use this as a base, and then I'll just draw on top. Yeah. So that's one way of doing it. You don't. I mean, that's the function, right? We have all the function laid out, and we can just draw some cool shapes on top. So wizardy explorer medieval shapes. All right. We get one more image, maybe a close up. That's kind of nice. It shows how it's a little confusing. I want to get some images, not just random images of RPGs, but yeah, maybe different type. Just so I have some other options that, that we have the RPG. Now medieval. Medieval. Can you spell medieval? I always have a hard time spelling medieval. Is it the I in front of the E or the which will come? Okay. Medieval. Of course it shows a medieval medieval weapons. Yeah, that's I don't see one where we would. Is that really that's kind of Viking, which is also medieval, but I'm thinking more European medieval. I guess I should have specified that. Yeah. Let's do this. This is kind of cool. The design with this material, the shape too, speaks very. Oh, yeah, all this really speaks medieval. You're not going to see any of this in like sci-fi or modern day tools or weapons. So it's a good reference. And then I want to go one more. That's a lot of easily get lost. So, um, let's see. Maybe I search up medieval wooden weapons. But two guys left. Okay, that's all wood. All right. Well, Let's do a shield. Medieval siege machine because I have a lot of wood and it's the structure, the way it's shaped out. That's so cool. There we go. That's good. Okay. This is a it's quite ambitious. We're designing an RPG that's built in the medieval era. It did not exist during that time. It would be quite ballsy to figure this one. But hey man, hey, that's why we love it. Designing new stuff. Okay. Explore. Okay. For explore, I'm gonna search up explorer, and then I want to search up the world, just to have that an image of maybe the jungle, just so I can see it just with that. Obviously, it's gonna show areas too. Ooh, okay. Explorer. UPR. Which one explorer? That's P. You guys are really seeing how bad my spelling is. Yeah, yeah. This is not what I do. 1950s explorer because that's what I think of. Cool. Okay. Oh, there we go. See? Things? The binoculars. Every explorer needs a good set of binoculars. I don't know what that is, but that's, I don't know what that reads explorer. This, the hat and everything. Yeah, that's a good one. And the shoes too, kind of. I think that's great. Nails are right on the nails. And I really like this. No, okay. It's not character design. We're doing weapons. So let's do the jungle. The jungle. I always have to remind myself, don't get lost. So easy to do that. Let's say he's exploring, or he or she or they or them. They're gonna. That seems cool. But that's not enough. The timer's going off. Oh boy. Say this. This is very generic. Jungle. No, that's one. Yes. All right, we got our reference images. Obviously, if I had more time, I'd gather a bit more. But for 10 minutes, let's jump back to Photoshop. Now we're in Photoshop. We're in the designing phase. Okay, how you guys doing? I worried while I was looking up reference images that my uh, okay. Some questions. Okay. So as you guys see, this is my brainstorm page. Right? I look at this and I ponder. I think, what am I going to do? And maybe make this a little bit bigger because I like that. And it's a weapon, you know. Predominantly make the weapons a little bit larger. Let's take these guys. We're going to go up here. The weapon is going to have some evil motifs. So that's kind of the shapes and the details that we can do. Okay, we don't need this anymore. And also that's on to the other page, the group page. So, just a yeah, organize it a little bit. It's not so chaotic. We have some flow. so it's easy to visually see and separate stuff. We're just gonna do that. Why not? We're not doing an environment design. That kind of feels more like an environment design. Who cares? No one's gonna see this. This is part of the stuff you do early on that just helps you do things that brainstorm. Okay, so like I said, we're at 8 minutes for the silhouette. So let's take this. I don't think I've ever designed full process this quickly. So I hope you guys are cheering me on. I hope we make it to the end. No promises. I will do my best. Um, yeah, I will do my absolute best. But it may not look great. It may not look good at all. But we're progressing, just like the levels. We're progressing. We're on level 3 right now. Look at that, guys. Look how far we came. 20 minutes. We're already on level 3. Okay, so quick little tip. If you want to do something really quick, this is not, this is not stealing. You are using this image as your base to let's start your silhouettes. Right? You don't need to start from scratch. You don't need to. This is not the end result. So what we're going to do, they can talk at the same time. Control T, nope. Control U. Control U pulls up this menu, and I can take. If you guys saw before, I didn't display what I was doing. I selected the white part on the background and I deleted that, so that now the image is just that RPG, and I can hit the slider and slide it all the way back, right? And it just darkens everything. Like, boom! Now it's a silhouette. Pretty cool, right? And now we have a silhouette, and we can start there. We're going to do like, oops, let's start with that. That's our reference. And then always good to have your reference specific. So I keep thinking about this cool shape, like this this axe, pike axe, pike. I think it's called pike. Yeah, so I keep thinking about that shape. So I want to incorporate that into that. I'm just thinking about big shapes right now. I'm not thinking about like the wood in here. We'll save that for later. We'll save that for materials. Although I am thinking about maybe the the general shape. General shape. How wood bends, maybe some rope. That's kind of cool. And then it's like metal things bolted into the wood. These wood pieces connect with this metal hinge in the center. Like all that is good to kind of think about. This is what I'm thinking about. Even at the stage of just doing simple silhouettes, we don't see any of that. But I'm thinking of that, it's in the back of my mind, so that when I'm doing the silhouettes, I'm kind of already thinking ahead of those shapes. So this is an explorer weapon. I don't think we want it to explode. So let's say it's gonna be good, guys. Grab one. Explore. We're gonna use that shape of that pickaxe. Let's do that. Obviously, I could make this curve really nice and nice, but we don't have the time. So that is the beauty of silhouettes, because you can just really quickly get what it is now. Already it's changed. This is a bow bag, so like shoots at the front, there it comes out here. So we actually want to keep that shape there. It's also got a nice kind of flare to it. Maybe we could flare it a bit more. I think do this in real times. iron. So that works. And then this could be wood, but as we saw in those like the medieval machines, I think they're more rounded, so we can play with that. Honestly, that's pretty good. I don't want to play with it. I don't want to mess around with it too much because I don't want it to step away from looking like an RPG. Because that's the point. I guess for Steam, we want it to look like an RPG. And then the other little designs are supplementary to second RPG. 3 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna blaze through this. Arrow, rocket propelled. I don't think it is this. What do you think? Doesn't it explode? It could. You know what? Let's do an option where it explodes. I don't know what kind of use that would be for the medieval era, but exploring. Maybe you shoot it at like a cave that's covered up with rocks, and you want it to open up a cave. So you put some a little fuse, because that was invented in the medieval era, and like that, and shoot it, and it hits the cave, and it explodes, and it explodes inside that cave. Who knows? So that's 3 options. We got 2 minutes. Let's try and get a couple more. Um, classic. Let's do a bomb. This classic bomb, circular bomb. And obviously, I should probably get reference for this, but since we have the time, I'm not going to do that. So I'm accessing my brain files for what I remember of bomb. It maybe looks a little generic, but I want to play around with other shapes. So let's do that bomb, but let's maybe play with the back. So maybe instead of just a brush, I'm using a solid. I forgot to mention that this brush has no contact. It's just like a marker. I find that's super helpful. Keeps it simple when you're doing shapes. Don't need to worry about pressing hard. I'm pressing very lightly, very dark volume. So it's just super helpful. Another thing I was going to show you guys is select this bit. Shoot. Yeah, something like that. Maybe I don't know why, but maybe it looks good. Medieval. Maybe it's got like a little flag or something. I don't know, I don't know why, but maybe it's the classic medieval. Yeah, you gotta have fun with your designs. Right? If you're not having fun, then why are you doing it? That's cool. I kind of like that. Let's add the flag to a couple others. Not all of them, but it's maybe. Yeah, I like that. Does it speak? Does it speak wizard? Hmm. Maybe we can figure that out later on. Yeah, we can do that later. Okay. So now what I do, the timer just went off, so I gotta be quick. Now what I do is I label these. I look at them. I think, how do I like that? I can switch my canvas, see it reverse. It's exciting. I don't know about you guys, but I think my top favorite are this one. So don't we choose just one? That's another thing. Let's do one with the flag and one without. I actually like the bomb with the flag. I like the axe guy without the flag. So I'm gonna make a quick adjustment. Please, please. There we go. Now we're gonna take this. Select. N. Select emergency tool. Then I'm gonna press Control C and magic. Nothing happened, but now it's copied and pull next to it. And the spell it probably goes. Now we're at level 4. Which is on that one. I don't know what happened to it. And see if it's on and those. That's right. Now we have two silhouettes that are pretty cool. Cool enough. The time that we have. Speaking of which, got another timer. We have 30 minutes left. Okay, I gotta blaze through this. Okay. I'm gonna do quick. I'm gonna actually do this. I think 3D is gonna take a little bit longer. So what I like to do is take these guys. Let's get them all the same layer. I would love to tell you and just go a lot slower and show you exactly and tell you what I'm doing. But just take the time. So yeah, now that's black. It's a color pick up here. Got a little lighter house. And I'm gonna take with the wood. Right? I know wood is brown, but wood is typically black and white here. So thinking, all right, maybe the black is metal. Yeah, maybe black is metal and brick is wood. So it's gonna have some metal that's gonna wrap around the wood. Kind of be there. So actually, we are playing around with particular just three values right now, and that's just flat values. But we are thinking about materials, like wood and metal. We're thinking about those guys. We're thinking about them. We're not playing with them yet. We're just it's in the open. So this comes with time too. Like um, I'm thinking about where wood, like where a cylinder would actually work. Like obviously, I could do it here, but I'm thinking that for the blowback, it heats up. Probably want metal back there. Also to warp it, probably metal is going to be the best material. And for areas where there's the piston, the trigger and everything going on inside, um, it's probably gonna make more sense for that to just be casing of metal, right? And then other areas maybe like grab. It's gonna be wood. It's gonna be nice to hold. You see the modern day weapons to use wood. That's you know it's brown and soft and it adds some nice warmth to the sound as well. Hey, the boys are through this. All right. Honestly, I think those are pretty good. So this is not bad. And now, uh, value coming up. Distracted. This, we'll probably see. That can be like that. Um, it is great. What do you guys think? What's the most exciting? What do you guys think is the most exciting weapon? What would be the coolest? If you were a wizard, what would you want to? What kind of RPG would you want to hold? You want a big bomb with a fuse at the end, or would you want a sharp pointed, pretty grappling blade? Would you want a little flag on top? Personally, I really they're very similar, left and right. Let's let's go with this one. Okay, cool. There we go. Moving on. Page 5. Rough sketches. 19 seconds, guys. You're doing well. Now, I'm going to do two sketches for you. Lots of time. I'm going to do sketches. But now, this is just a feeling that I will do. So now I'll switch to a more. I will switch to a more a brush that has the high pressure. It's a lot less another brush to oil breath and put it my sketching. Sometimes I'll sketch it and maybe what does a bomb look like? Just space like that. And what does a fly look like? I don't do this with everything, just to kind of have a drawing of things and maybe seeing it. So I'm just kind of noodling and then for this, we'll draw on some wood. Okay? And I'm thinking about this as okay, what would I want? This is the house. This is the his old fight. He's got like a hat on it. That's the tone. Everyone being just the lions and tigers that. Yeah, basically now I'm just kind of thinking about really thinking about detail per se. Because my brush it could be a lot smaller, but I want to keep a brush not too big, just to think about how are these forms that and you'll see as you progress through it'll get a little bit it'll take longer and longer to, as you can already see just doing the line and down and stuff like that. And also at this stage I like to get back to it. And then okay, thinking about bats and plates, wood, and yeah, maybe we have we could photo bash that, but I don't want to. So maybe I'll draw a different dragon. I don't know what that is. That's good. Anyway. And yeah, that's like on metal, so walking with the so bolts here, and then maybe it's we're obviously not going to design it out now. Even if we had time, we wouldn't go into detail on it. Because we don't know if that's going to work, right? We're just experimenting. So this is what we call placeholder. Like looks like something from a distance. That looks like, oh, it's like David, right? But we just that's okay. They don't need it. So we just want the idea to come across down the line. Yeah. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, then obviously then we didn't waste too much time. Yeah. I don't actually know what this is. I think it's a site. So we just leave it at that. I really do want to allow some of the time of people to get longer. Maybe we don't even keep trying to say, we'll do this quickly. We're doing our best. We're doing our best. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm thinking, how's this bomb gonna patch this? So how an RPG works is it has the explosive on it. That's about it. I'm the I don't know how hard the other boards. It probably just goes to that goes inside of the key. So I'm not thinking about that as I'm drawing this. Even though I'm not going to draw it going inside, I'm going to think about that. I'm thinking about it. It's just in my mind, just knowing the structure of it. So because you might have some cool ideas. So, and you know what? This is kind of dangerous. Bomb is kind of dangerous. So the cool thing is, after all of that drawing, I can draw good. Drawing program allows you to with that and drag it down. Oh, look at that. Looks like we did 2 times the work. So what I was trying to say is before I interrupted myself, I'm trying to think of it. This is where like having that foundational stuff that I learned this at school. To kind of draw and use lines to kind of draw forms. It's really just straight, just line, kind of feel like it's got has spikes all over the cylinder. That's kind of cool. And he's a nice one. I was gonna give a big like, I was gonna give like a like, you also don't want to like stray away too far from the initial design. So if you do something like this, if you do something like that, it's gonna start looking like it's gonna be harder to figure out what you have to. Also, we should try and stick to our initial so that yeah, we can add little things like this like this and like that, but we don't want to stray too far because we're doing from a nice development path. If we do that, then we should probably sort of write it again to make sure that it works as we want. So that can be so let's test ourselves and yeah, I think I don't know what you guys, but I'm kind of vibing with these like cool spikiness. Yeah, so side views. It's only 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I don't know, guys. I don't know. We're gonna make it. See, I'm gonna skip side views. I normally do the left side and the right side, but since it's a RPG, it's generally the same on both sides. It's a cylinder, and a sphere is a sphere. It's gonna have spikes on the side here. But we actually really don't need to do side. But I will do a version just to show you. Copying and stuff like that. I will do a version just to show you kind of what I would do, even though it's on both sides. But this is what I always do. I start with the left side, usually the left side. Start with one side, design it, do a sketch on top, and then with the other side. This is before we push with that with it. Right? Pretty easy. I just go down, go to cut it. It's pretty much onto it. Now, I have left side view, right side view. And it's not really necessary because it's the exact same size, like I said, but just, as an objection for it, RPG, I don't think that maybe it's got some this something. Good. Finally. All right, now we're into blockout phase. Guys, we're almost done. I'm doing fine. Only 20 minutes left. But we are close. We're at level 7. Okay. So now what I'm gonna let's see. I need to say I was thinking I could do a but I actually do Blender. And we'll save this. That's that. Demo process. These are probably open it. The video I'm showing is I guess you do Blender. See if it shows up. While Blender is doing that, iPad. There's always something I yeah. So look how far we've gone. On each line reference, silhouettes, line value panels, side views. Now we're on blockhead. Now on level 7. That's pretty cool. So yeah. Um, so these I just want to show you guys my tips because these are really cool design stuff. And as you know, I always like using timers to really keep me um, accountable for my time, and so I don't get distracted. But I just keep progressing. That's really nice. Make a list, just like the brief that we have. Lists are really nice to organize or journey on they're really nice. Take breaks. Right? We did that. Stretch, dance, get some food. Give your eyes and your brain just a second to do something else. Breaks are really good. I sometimes go outside after 20 minutes. I just go outside, smell the fresh air. Just to, it's nice just to take breaks. You don't need to just keep drafting or just keep chipping away at something that you don't know what you're doing. Sometimes all you need is a nice little walk. But organize your layers. That's I just like to keep it organized. It's when I was in college, I just had a bunch of layers, and it would be so confusing, chaotic, and it was not an experience trying to find the specific layer that I was working on. So I recommend organizing your layers in groups so that it just saves you that stress and that confusion. And the last one, jumping between programs. I mean, we're doing that with Blender. What a great transition to get back to it. On your screen. Okay, here we go. Go on, just here we go. I wasn't sure if we would, but let's set a timer. That's 15 minutes. That's 5. I won't do a whole report on it. Uh, this this program can be quite limiting. And I didn't do 3D for a long time. I avoided it. So I want to do 3D. I don't want to. But once once you kind of get familiar with it, it's really great. It saves a lot of time, problem solve. I'm gonna try to do. Gotta throw those in. Called Wizard. This is why I like the label things. These are these aren't look at that. Now our two-dimensional drawing is in a 3D space. Oh my god. It's actually pretty cool. This is actually really cool. So, there you go. I don't think I'll have enough time to I won't have enough time to model this all out with a full block out, even if it's super simple. But I will do a quick 2 minute. I'm not using it for a lot, but okay, so it's here. I'm just gonna, yeah, I added that. Literally, I'm like a 3D artist now. I'm using that two-dimensional sketch to as a blueprint for, for to my design in 3D. That is a quite long story. Yeah, I wanted to show you this. So that's PCB, which this Blender has a cool feature where you can just toss in already pre-made shapes. That's basically it. Just tossing the shapes in. I'm not sewing them like they're just in 3D space. I haven't put the diagram, but I'm placing them in the location of the side view, so they resemble that form. And that, but I don't want to make it consistent as I go around. I realize that could be a thing. But basically now you can kind of see how this could be seen. Obviously, now, actually, I do want that area. Around the time, around the time that screenshot. I need to put the time of which one on. So, go back to Photoshop. Right? Back to Photoshop. We did our side views. We did our 3D block out. that's another thing I wanted to show you guys. It's a blockhead. That's a very nice blockhead. There it is. That blockhead was not bad, not bad. But basically what I was thinking about is that that's too much. He's hanging on top of this. I may have done it the blockhead and beat on time. Really pushing the limits. Really pushing it. I really want to. This is my goal. I really want to show you guys how I process. Yeah, I was do this. I think the trigger was good. At this stage, you can like, literally the blockout is just there. It's almost like perspective lines. But like Blender, as you can see, I think that but now we have and we can't play with the plan. It's cool. So yeah. Now basically, it wasn't that I really, there are some photos of this guy that I have but oh, it's oh, um, if I had the time, I would also, yeah, yeah, also, I know this is so wonderful. I'm sorry, I wish I had more time to play with that. It's not as good as I can say, but like that. Another way of doing it. And details, basically, yeah, the details is just basically more of it. Now that you have the players can see mostly, probably so I don't like put it on all this stuff too. In the actual first person, you're not gonna do it. You're not gonna see it. You'll see it. That's another reason why we don't worry about the value of because you may not see that stuff in the first person view. So maybe you want to focus more detail to the that's really centered that you want to have the flag. Yeah. And there's the jungle. We're not jungle. The cave that you want to explore that. So, um, 4 minutes. All right. The last little bit of the presentation. It's kind of the easiest. One page. It's time. Yes. Name down to some all stuff. It's just boring. It's kind of nice. And that's it. You know, I think 3 minutes left. And I don't know about you guys, but that's as close as I'm getting to a rocket propeller. So wizard that likes to this is a concept. Usually means color but as you see it's more important values that so you think it's really under that class that I've done what I do guys I hope you enjoyed it that was just exciting to start doing my designs and yeah I went back to the school it's every time yeah you guys it's it's long and like I said it's been recorded and so let's start that so yeah that's it it's really time to get this out and good night to Canada so we're in Montreal we're watching this at the time zone have a great day and this was fun about this stuff uh,